Okay, so have you ever done this? You check your credit score on one of those free apps, you feel pretty good about it, and then you check another one, and the number is completely different, sometimes way lower. It's so frustrating, right? It makes you wonder which one of these numbers is even real. Well, let's get into it and solve this thing together.
And if you're asking this question, you are definitely not alone. You're not going crazy, your scores are different, and there are very real, very specific reasons why. This isn't some mistake, it's actually how the system is designed to work.
And this isn't just some abstract idea. I mean, look at this question from a Reddit user 606X. They've got a 640 from Experian, but then a 596 and 597 from the other two. A 44-point swing. That is huge. That's enough to make anyone question what's going on. And their exact problem gets right to the heart of what we're going to unpack in this explainer.
All right, here's how we're going to break this all down. We're going to start with the big mystery, then we'll follow your data's journey, we'll look at the 2 secret recipes for credit scores, find out why the ingredients themselves are different, and then, most importantly, we'll talk about what you should actually focus on.
Okay, let's dive right in. The absolute foundation of this whole mystery, the reason you can even have so many different scores, is because you don't just have one credit file. Nope. You actually have 3.
Right, so where do these 3 reports even come from? To really get that, we need to trace the journey your financial data takes from the very beginning. Because your score, that's just the final step. It all starts with the raw information.
Here in the U.S., the whole system is run by 3 massive and totally separate companies. We call them the credit bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. The best way to think of them is like 3 giant competing librarians, each keeping their own separate set of books on pretty much every adult in America.
And this is basically how it all flows. It's a constant loop. You use credit, your bank or lender reports how you're doing to these bureaus, the bureaus collect all that data into a report, and then the next time you need a loan, other lenders pull that report to decide if they'll lend you money. It's this huge interconnected ecosystem.
So there's actually a name for all these companies sending your info to the bureaus. They're called data furnishers. Your bank, that credit card you have, your car loan, they are all furnishers. They're the ones on the front lines providing the raw data that becomes your credit history.
So the bureaus get all this raw data from the furnishers, but how does that mountain of information get turned into one simple 3-digit number? Well, this is where we get to the core of the mystery. See, there isn't just one recipe for a credit score. There are 2 main ones.
You've got 2 main players in the game, FICO and VantageScore. Now, FICO is the original, the old school model. It's been around for ages. Then, back in 2006, the 3 bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, actually teamed up to create their own competitor, VantageScore. And the most important thing to get is that these are not the same thing. They're 2 totally different products, using 2 totally different recipes.
Okay, let's look at the FICO recipe. The big one, the absolute heavyweight at 35% is your payment history. Simple as that. Do you pay your bills on time? Then, coming in at 30% is how much you owe, what's known as your credit utilization. And then the rest is filled out by things like how long you've had credit and the different types of credit you have. Okay, now let's immediately switch over to the VantageScore recipe. See the difference? Payment history is even more important here, a whopping 40%. But look at credit utilization. It's only 20%. And they bundle things like the age and type of your credit differently. So even though they're looking at similar stuff, the proportions, the recipe itself is completely different.
You know, a Reddit user just nailed it with this comment explaining the difference between FICO and VantageScore. They said, "You're comparing apples to bricks." And that's exactly it. They're both designed to measure risk, but they are fundamentally different calculations that are almost always going to give you a different number.
All right, so different recipes. That makes sense, right? That explains a lot. But the mystery actually goes a level deeper. Because what happens when the ingredients going into those recipes aren't even the same? Because the data on your Experian report might not be a perfect match for what's on your TransUnion report.
And that brings up a really good question. Why isn't the information the same everywhere? I mean, shouldn't your credit card information be exactly the same at all 3 bureaus? You'd think so, but not always.
Well, there are a few big reasons. For one, reporting is totally voluntary.
Some lenders, especially smaller credit unions or local banks, might only report to one or two of the bureaus to save money, so an account might just be missing from one of your reports. Then you've got timing. Lenders only update the bureaus about once a month, and they don't all do it on the same day. So Experian might get your updated car payment on the 5th, but TransUnion doesn't see it until the 20th. For 2 weeks, those reports are out of sync.
Okay, let's take a breath. We've got 3 different bureaus with possibly different data using 2 different secret recipes. It's a mess, I know. So with all this variation, which number should you even pay attention to? What actually matters at the end of the day?
So, which score really matters? Well, while you see your VantageScore all over those free apps, this number right here tells you almost everything you need to know. It's estimated that 90% of top lenders use some version of a FICO score when they're deciding on your mortgage, your car loan, your credit card. That makes FICO the score that has the most direct impact on your actual wallet.
And this brings us to probably my favorite quote from the whole discussion, because it sums it all up perfectly. All scores are accurate, but not all are helpful. That VantageScore you get from a free app, it's an accurate calculation based on its own formula. But if the bank you're applying to for a mortgage only cares about FICO, then that VantageScore, while accurate, isn't very helpful for predicting what they're going to do.
So what's the big takeaway here? What should you actually do? It's this. Stop chasing the number and start focusing on the story, the report itself. First, pull your actual credit reports for free from all 3 bureaus. Second, read them line by line and dispute any errors you find. And you have to do it with each bureau because fixing it on one doesn't fix it on the others. And third, just focus on the big things that both models care about most. Pay your bills on time, every single time, and keep those credit card balances as low as possible.
At the end of the day, a credit score is just a snapshot. It's based on a specific recipe using a specific set of ingredients at one specific moment in time. And really, when you step back, it all leads to this much bigger question to chew on. If one little number can be this complicated and this misleading, what does that mean for the future of how we measure who someone is financially?